We are in a pretty weird spot for the Pokemon trading card game. Lots of tournaments happening in the Silver Tempest format, and we have Scarlet and Violet coming out in just a couple months, but there's still one more set in the Sword and Shield block that's not getting as talked about that much. Hey, Nick from 9Card TCG, and today we're going to be talking about a deck that's it's barely from the set Crown Zenith, and the Crown Zenith is our final Sword and Shield set that is coming out, I think, February something, February 20th, 20 something, I don't know. I have the actual date on screen, so we're getting a few cards, and the thing about Crown Zenith is that it is largely a reprint set. We're getting mostly special arts and cool alternate character trainer gallery stuff. I know that was a mouthful right there. That's not actually, I don't know what that is. Anyway, there are a few new cards like the Radiant Eternatus that we're going to feature in today's deck. And I don't know how well this deck will do, but it's an interesting one. It's one that I saw online. I actually saw this on PokemonCard.io from Hunter Cash or Hunter Crash. Now I gotta double check because I don't want to be incorrect. It is Hunter Cash. I was correct the first time. And I'm gonna have a link to their deck list in the video description. So if you want to go check out their original deck list, you can go ahead and do so. Now, we're gonna head over to PokeGear, take a look at this deck, talk about it. But before we do, if you haven't already, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Tells YouTube this is a good channel. Other people should watch it. I have a new YouTube channel dedicated strictly to YouTube Shorts. It's clips, it's pack openings, it's whatever. So if you could go check that out, it's called 9Card Shorts, and I have a link to that in the video description as well. But for now, we'll just head over to PokeGear and talk about some Crown Zenith barely deck. I don't. So here we are, PokeGear, and again, a link to PokeGear in the video description. Now, this is gonna be kind of weird. I have some VMAXs and a Lost Zone style deck, but no Vs. How is this even possible? Well, that's the Radiant Eternatus for you. When you play this card from your hand to the bench, you can search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon VMAX and put them on your bench. And it's kind of cool. You just skip the evolution. So I've seen this kind of thing with Duraludon, and we can talk about that in the future as well. Instead of having to play Single Strike Mustard, which can be kind of complicated, now all we have to do is get Eternatus in play onto the bench, and we can get 2 Duraludons in play, which is pretty cool. Now, still might not be the best because you do have to power up those Duraludons, and now if you have an Eternatus and an Arceus to say power up the Duraludons, well, now Eternatus is 1 prize, Arceus is 2, that's 3 prizes, Duraludon's 3 prizes, you knock out those 3 Pokemon, that's 6 prizes. But we're not here to talk about Duraludon, we're here to talk about Rapid Strike, Urshifu, and Flying Pikachu VMAX. Now, we're going to skip over those for the time, because I want to talk about Comfey and the Lost Zone engine. Flower Selecting lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand and the other into the Lost Zone. If you're not familiar, what is the Lost Zone? It's basically a second discard pile that once a card goes to the Lost Zone, it can never be touched again. So the discard, we can get cards back from the discard with things like Ordinary Rod, which lets us get Pokemon and basic energies from the discard, and we also have things like Training Court that let us get basic energies from the discard. So we have ways of getting cards from the discard. However, once a card goes to the Lost Zone, it can never be recovered again. Why on earth would we want to remove cards from play? Well, the answer is because we have things like Cramorant that lets us, when we have 4 or more cards in the Lost Zone, we can attack for free. We can ignore the attack's energy cost and hit with Spit innocently for 110 damage, totally free, which is really, really good. Now, to do this, we do need 4 cards into the Lost Zone. So how do we get those cards in the Lost Zone? Well, we already mentioned Comfey. Flower Selecting puts 1 in there, and we can use things like Scoop Up Net, Escape Rope, and Switch to move Comfeys around, because every time a Comfey comes into the active for the first time that turn, you get to use Flower Selecting. So if you have 3 Comfeys in play, theoretically, we can go ahead and use 3 Flower Selecting. Scoop Up Net lets you bring it from your, from the field back into your hand. So if you have, the ability to play it again, and you put it into the active, you can use that same Comfy twice. So we can really double dip and reuse Comfies a ton. We also have Chorus's Experiment. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put 3 into your hand, 2 into the Lost Zone. So it's really easy to get 4 cards in the Lost Zone. Now, we don't stop there. We actually want to get 7 cards into the Lost Zone, because Mirage Gate lets us, when we have 7 in the Lost Zone, start your deck for 2 basic energies of different types and attach them to our Pokemon in any way we want. This is super, super good. Now, what I can see happening is you use your Comfies, you use your Culver's. We also have Lost Vacuum. You can get rid of a Stadium or a Pokemon Tool, and that does include your own, by the way, by Lost Zoning a card from your hand, and then you put that card that you removed from play into the Lost Zone. So if you have, say, your own Pokestop and you want to get rid of it, you can go ahead, use Lost Vacuum, take a card from your hand, put it into the Lost Zone, and then that Pokestop goes into the Lost Zone as well. So that's 2 extra cards into the Lost Zone just from playing something like Lost Vacuum. So it's a nice way of just like, you're just on the cusp, but you can't afford to get that last Comfy into the active because you can't use your retreat for the turn, something like that. Maybe you don't have a scoop up net to pull it. So whatever happens, we have this option to get just a couple extra cards into the Lost Zone. And we use Mirage Gate here because we can get, like I said, 2 energies of different types onto our Pokemon in any way we choose. And the Pokemon that we're going to be choosing are our VMAXs and also, honestly, this Radiant Eternatus, which does have a pretty decent attack for Fire, Dark, Colorless, and it hits for 200 on a single prize Pokemon. Is pretty nice. Now, I wouldn't mind seeing a choice belt in here, which means we'd be able to attack Pokemon Vs, take some easy KOs. There is a case for maybe taking out the cross switchers and go ahead and throwing in maybe a couple of Serenas or Boss's Orders, getting some Echo Horns in there, because then we can use the Echo Horn to, take a Pokemon that we knocked out previously, put it back onto our opponent's bench, boss it up, and then attack with something like Radiant Eternatus. We could also use Rapid Strike Urshifu V Max. Gale Thrust does 30 damage, but if we go from the bench to the active during our turn, we do an extra 120. So for a single fighting energy, we can hit for 150, which is why this person probably included the cross switchers. We can hit 150 very, very easily because we have to start on the bench, go to the active, and then G-Max Rapid Flow, 2 fighting and a colorless. Discard all energies attached to this Pokemon, but if you do, choose 2 of your opponent's Pokemon and do 120 damage to both of them, which is pretty powerful because we can use something like Gale Thrust to hit for 150, and then our opponent tries to run to the bench. Well, now we can just go ahead and Rapid Flow, hit them for another 120, potentially take some prizes. So really nice way of cleaning up, a Pokemon that was damaged previously. It's really nice way of your opponent has some stuff on the board, like on the bench, that they really need to keep safe. They, have like Sobbles, Drizzles, whatever. We can go ahead and use Rapid Flow to just knock out their support Pokemon, kind of destroy their bench, make it a little bit harder for them to implement the strategy that they want, or just soften up Pokemon so that when they do come into the active later in the game, they're just going to be easy KOs, and make your opponent hesitate a little bit about sending up those damaged Pokemon, because they're not going to get as much out of them as they normally would, since they're already damaged. They're not going to last as long in battle. So that's kind of what we want to do. Now, one of the ways we can maximize Rapid Strike Urshifu's G-Max Rapid Flow attack is with the Earthen Seal Stone tool card. And now, it has the attack Star Gravity for triple colorless, and it says you put damage counters on all of your opponent's Pokemon V until they have 100 health remaining. Now, this is super, super nice because, again, you have like those 280 health Pokemon V-Star, Arceus, and Lugias, and Palkias, whatever. Well, now they all go down to 100 health, and we can just go ahead and hit with something like Rapid Strike Urshifu. Take, potentially 4 or more prizes in a single turn. We can use Cramorant to attack and take a prize, because remember, it brings them down to 100 health remaining. This does 110. Eternatus is going to be a really nice way of cleaning up those prizes. 170 on a basic is pretty good. So we also have the Flying Pikachu VMAX, and It has the max balloon attack, 1 lightning double colorless, hits for 160. And now this is really nice because one, Lugia, Palkia, those kind of decks are weak to lightning, so we have coverage there. And we have coverage against opposing Lost Zone decks and Reggie decks because max balloon says when we attack during our opponent's next turn, we can't be hit by basic Pokemon. So we kind of get to choose what Pokemon we want to put into play with the tournament. So are we playing Reggies? Well, then we're going to go ahead and use Flying Pikachu. Are we playing something that maybe is weak to fighting? Maybe some type of like Lugia counter deck that's weak to electric or that's really reliant on having a particular board. We can take advantage of taking down, like I said, those support Sobbles and stuff on the bench. Maybe they're playing, I don't know, some type of random Arceus thing. We can use the Urshifu for that. We have a few different options that we could take advantage of for either Pokemon. So that's really nice. The ability to choose which VMAX we want is really good. And we never have to worry about starting, Flying Pikachu in a deck that we don't want to, or starting Urshifu against Mew, something like that. So that's really, really nice. We don't have to worry because since we only have the VMAXs, we never have the Vs to start. So we're always going to start Eternatus, which you don't want to start Eternatus, but if you do, it's not the end of the world, and we'll talk about why in a second. We can start Pyukumuku, and honestly, the odds of us starting anything other than a Comfey or Cramorant are pretty low, which is exactly what we want. We want to get something like Comfey into the active as quickly as possible. We do have some Battle VIP passes so that when we do, get our Comfey, we can try to build our board with some more Comfeys, more Cramorants, things like that. Now, it is worth noting that we do not use Battle VIP Pass to get Eternatus, because Battle VIP Pass says it goes from the deck to the bench, and Eternatus' ability says it has to go from the hand to the bench. So we have to use something like a Heavy Ball or a Quick Ball to get our Eternatus into our hand to play it onto the bench. Now, if we do start Eternatus, it's not the end of the world. Like I said before, we have Scoop Up Net, so we can just use Scoop Up Net, get that Eternatus from the active spot back into the hand, send up something new, and then we can play Eternatus, use the ability to get our Pokemon VMAX into play. This might not be a bad deck to throw in like a Duraludon, because Duraludon, you can use that instead of the Flying Pikachu. Both Urshifu and Duraludon need fighting energies, and then Duraludon needs metal energies instead of the Pikachu's lightning energies. So you have some options there on how you want to build it. We do have a Heavy Ball. Hisuian Heavy Ball lets us look at our prizes and take a basic Pokemon from there and swap it with the Heavy Ball card. This is super important for our Eternatus to make sure it's not locked in our prizes for the entire game and then we can't get any of our Pokemon VMAX. Energy Recycler just gets us these basic energies back. We have a couple of Dark, Fire, and Lightning, and then a bunch of fighting energies. Again, our main attacker is going to be Urshifu. It does need 2 fighting energies for the rapid flow attack, so that's kind of the main strategy, is use Earth and Seal Stone and then go into the Urshifu later. Something you could do, a little strategy, the original deck list included Irida. I don't know how necessary the Irida is, mostly because we don't really have a lot of water Pokemon to choose from. I guess we could get our Cramorant or our Pyukumuku to draw an extra card with the Pyukumuku, and we get the Searcher deck for an item card, which could be the Heavy Ball or Battle VIP Pass or our Earth and Seal Stone, whatever it is we need to do. So that is something, but we don't have a way to search out Irida, so I don't know how helpful a one-of Irida would actually be, unless you were going to throw in, say, something like a Lumineon, then we could search it out with Quick Ball. You could go Forest Seal Stone, and Forest Seal Stone just instead of the Earth and Seal Stone, just lets you get any cards you want from your deck. It's pretty nice. That's your V-Star power for the game. You could do that, and then you just find exactly what you need when you need it. You have to attach it to a Pokemon V, however, so you wouldn't be able to if you need Heavy Ball to get Eternatus, you'll never be able to use the Forest Seal Stone, so that's something to consider. So Irida might be an option for this deck, but at the moment, I would have to play it. I think ideally you would want to kind of dig through your deck with your Comfeys and your Culverses and something like Pyukumuku to find whatever it is you need. And I guess Irida would be an extra out to something like a Heavy Ball or a VIP Pass if you're going second. So maybe. What we have to consider for Earth and Seal Stone is 2 things. One, Mew is a very popular deck, and Drapion is a really nice addition. But something like Drapion and Galarian Zapdos V, their abilities do affect the attack cost for Star Gravity. So if we are playing a deck that has a lot of Pokemon V, something like Galarian Zapdos V can use Star Gravity for free. Galarian Zapdos V's ability says that for each of your opponent's Pokemon V, its attack costs are 1 colorless less. Well, if your opponent has 3 Pokemon V in play, we could technically use Star Gravity for free with the Zapdos. And then we can use Thunderous Kick for just a single fighting energy. So that is a basic Pokemon. So there is the risk that we would start it. So there are trade-offs there. One issue with Earth and Steel Stone is that if our opponent sees it coming, then they just don't have to evolve their Pokemon right away. And then if we use our once per game Star Gravity to hit into Pokemon V, and then the next turn they evolve, well, they're not going to have 100 health remaining. They're going to have 160 or probably 160 health remaining. And now, not only are they out of Rapid Flow territory, but they're out of Gale Thrust territory. They are not out of Max Balloon or Power Beam. I think this is whatever the attack on Eternatus is. So we do have some ways of still one-shotting a Pokemon that evolved after we used the Earth and Seal Stone, but we don't want to, right? We're taking a turn to use Earth and Seal Stone. We don't really want to, then have to wait another turn to attack and take 2 prizes, and then, they knock out our VMAX and we're kind of in trouble. Remember, we're only going to get 2 VMAXs. I guess technically we could get 4 if we use Scoop Up Net. We play the Eternatus, Scoop Up Net, or play the Eternatus. We could get 4 VMAXs, though you probably don't need that. Some of the other cards in this deck, Quick Ball, discard a card from your hand, get a basic Pokemon. We talked about Escape Rope, your opponent switches one of their bench Pokemon with the active, you do the same. Your opponent always chooses first. Switch one of your bench with one of your active. I think we kind of talked about everything. A cross switcher, you have to have 2 of them in order to play this card. But if you do, you get to choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and replace it with their active, and then you switch one of your bench Pokemon with your active. So that's kind of cool, right? It's a good way of getting an Urshifu off the bench into the active, and then getting Gale Thrust. It could be a nice way of sending up the Eternatus. We already hit with Gale Thrust, did 150. They run to the bench. Now, they still have, I don't know, let's say it's a VMAX. They still have 150 health or 180 health or something like that. We can go ahead, power up our Eternatus between things like Training Court, Attach from Hand, Mirage Gate. We can probably get those energies pretty easily. And then we just cross switch her up, bring up that VMAX that they brought to the bench, send up our Eternatus, boom, hit for 200, and we're offering up a single prizer in the process, which is pretty nice. I don't think we actually did mention what Pyukumuku does once during your turn. If Pyukumuku is in your hand, reveal it, put it to the bottom of your deck, draw a card. You can't use more than one of these in a turn, meaning you can't go use Pitch Pyukumuku. I hate saying that so many times in a row. My God. You use Pitch Pyukumuku, put it to the bottom of your deck, you draw a card. You draw a Quick Ball. You cannot say, oh, I'm going to use this Quick Ball, discard a card, get Pyukumuku, and use the ability. No. One Pyukumuku, that's why you never see more than one of them, because any more than one in a turn is a dead card. So unless you plan on getting rid of it, but it's not a good reason to have more than one. But yeah, that's kind of the whole deck. It is a very interesting deck, and I'm kind of curious to try it. I don't know how good it's going to be. Like I said, there's a lot of ways we can swap this around. You can go straight Eternatus build, or you can do Lost Zone Duraludon with Urshifu. I think that's not a bad combination, personally. But considering the popularity of Lugia, Palkia, Reggie's Lost Zone, this fine Pikachu does offer quite a bit in the form of his max balloon attack. 320 is a lot, and it's enough to knock out a Lugia, even if they have a V-Guard energy. Dunsparce is a little bit of a problem because, they can just, now you're not hitting for weakness because Dunsparce removes colorless type Pokemon's weakness, which is a little annoying, but, if no one's really, I don't know if I would count on people not playing Dunsparce. I would also not count on people playing Manaphy, which is another huge problem because Manaphy blocks damage to benched Pokemon, which means you're not going to be able to Rapid Flow. You can still Earth and Steel Stone. Earth and Steel Stone says place damage counters, but you won't be able to follow up Rapid Flow the very next turn. So that could be kind of a waste because you're going to spend a turn to use Earth and Seal Stone, drop all your opponent's Pokemon V down to 100, you get attacked, and then the next turn, you can Rapid Flow or try to Gale Thrust or something like that. This deck might benefit from something like, especially if you're going to go Urshifu build, it might benefit from something like a Cheryl, since we can Rapid Flow, get rid of all the energies, and then just they hit us, we Cheryl, attach a basic energy, do our retreat nonsense, escape rope, scoop up net, or cross switcher, whatever kind of stuff we need to do, even if it's just switch, scoop up net, switch, attach, retreat, and then Mirage Gate. Like, we have a lot of ways to get a bunch of energies in play, so I do think this deck might benefit from Cheryl, but you really want to be using Colress. It's a really weird deck, and I guess until we play it, I don't know what the best way of going about it's gonna be. So we're just gonna stick with this for now. I'm gonna stop rambling and we're gonna wrap this up. So there you have it, Radiant Eternatus from Crown Zenith. It seems kind of interesting. I've already seen some decks about it on Twitter and stuff, so it's definitely something of note. It's definitely something of worth trying. I don't know how good it's actually going to be, of course, until we get the card or start testing with it. But let me know what you think in the comments. I want to hear from you. Have you heard anything about Radiant Eternatus' success? Are you interested in it? Is this something you want to see? I want to know. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, found it informative. Like, subscribe, comment, 9-card shorts, YouTube, Twitter, Discord, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. And I will see you next time.